Yeah, so one to go. So exactly what we're talking about. Like there's that DRC's a 3-3 and it's chopping away. You're gonna be in a position to like, I might have to crack this EE now and not be able to get that cannoneer out as quick as you want.
Yeah, and I like this a lot from Lorenzo as well, because he's holding up both Metallic Rebuke and this Engineered Explosives, right? So he has an answer of something like a Dash Ragavan came in, or you wanted to develop another DRC, two things that happen to be in hand here. But also you have a counter spell, if something like Corey Steelcutter came down, you just Metallic Rebuke that, and then you get hit for the DRC. Maybe if you're unlucky, they hit Delirium if that had been cast, and you call it a day. But a really powerful spot here for this Affinity deck is being able to do things like this while also do what you mentioned in our last round. Turn one, here's 6 permanents, go. Playing those two different, very different games plans can be really hard to play through. I love
Surveilling.
this Surveil.
Yeah, the surveil here to consider that can I make this a 3-3? Can I get in? Because the pressure just needs to come on, as you mentioned with the Murktide deck. This is not a stop and go. This is a I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you. Definitely getting in there, and yeah, putting Lorenzo in a place where that they may be susceptible to maybe one or two lightning bolts off the tops is probably the best place you can put them in post board.
Yep. And
So we're
now
passing.
Lorenzo. Oh, sorry.
Let's see, we're passing over and let's see what Lorenzo's going to fight back with.
Yeah, and Lorenzo now has the pinch. I can see there's at least another land and a Mox Opal in hand. So now it's, if you don't do something that makes me use my EE mana, no worries, you're not getting any sort of advantage. I'm going to develop these constructs. I'm going to take over the game very quickly with that. And with cards like Shadowspear that can get quickly searched up, that can be extra punishing here for our Murktide player, as traditionally constructs plus Shadowspears are very hard for these decks to beat without huge Murktides.
Yeah, like it almost puts a clock on this instantly, right? If once this Shadow Spear gets in and they're able to attach, like you really are fighting from behind. So at this point, you might need to start thinking about how can I protect against this situation happening. I'm hoping, and maybe that's where they've been going for like the preordain after preordain. If they can get the meltdown in hand, the meltdown will be great soon, like this next turn or something like that. In 2 turns, 3 turns time though, it'll be awful. It'll do almost next to nothing for you. So yeah, getting something like that to resolve is going to be where you want to be at.
It's in
I don't.
hand, by the way. I think we drew the meltdown for the turn.
And what kind of we got here? I don't know this art.
Oh, this is expressive iteration.
Ah, right.
Yep. I actually haven't seen that art before either. I just, what else is Murktide gonna do for blue and a red? They
That's
love
true.
to
That's
draw their
true.
cards.
Yeah. For what was tapped, that was what it was. It wasn't a Corey Steel cutter. We haven't. It's not been long enough for that to see a reprint yet. So
Mhm.
interested. I guess you have to respect. There's probably a metallic rebuke, right? So that even if you do have the meltdown here, you make it the thing you do after you've looted your hand away a bit more. But it's definitely going to be a 3-3 coming in, and then it's seeing how Lorenzo reacts.
Yeah, and I like this a lot here. By playing the EE, you do bait a card like Metallic Rebuke, right? Your opponent might be stuck on lands, and look at it from Lorenzo's side, right? Oh, I have all this pressure. Okay, I'll Metallic Rebuke this Expressive Iteration. Hope that I put you kind of in a lock position, then activate my construct. It's very easy to sort of tempt your opponent into pulling in on a card that doesn't super matter, especially because it could find the meltdown. But right now we have meltdown covered. Next turn, the meltdown for 0, we could pay for it through a metallic rebuke, but at this moment we just get to hang out and not worry too much about it all. And the weird part too about this expressive iteration is it is a sorcery, so this DRC is still a 1/1 and isn't forced to attack.
Yeah, interesting. And we got the constructs chain going now, so we'll have to see. I guess regardless, here you represent Lorenzo. From a sideboarding perspective, decks like this put things like Mystical Dispute in. Maybe they've got that, and then also a Force of Negation follow up. So there's some things to think about the whole way. This is a pivotal turn for Lorenzo in that respect because yeah, if you do resolve a Shadow Spear onto a construct, you're in a very very strong spot. And there's a boost as well, so like they're also going to be able to hopefully, or likely swing in with it as well if that all goes to plan. And another saga, meaning, yeah, they're setting up here. This is probably the classic. They're looking to almost like set up the wall here now, and
Mhm.
you know, yes, we can get the DRC flying over, but ultimately the wall of constructs is something that, from the Murktide player's perspective, will become quite the dominating time. That count does tend to tell you that there's something coming as well in respect of how many artifacts do I have. If it's if it's a bluff, great bluff. But I think I always fall for that one when someone starts counting their artifacts. That's in my head. In my head, you have the Kappa Cannoneer, and I am in trouble. So, but we'll see. We will see. It's not obviously not over until they scoop them up. But it's a
Yeah,
very,
and
very
well,
powerful board state.
yeah, and it's you and I. We're sort of two sides of the same coin. You're like, I can't beat a Capicandier, and I'm looking at the board like I can't beat these 6/6 constructs. It's a position where I'm not even worrying about that turtle. The only turtle that bothers me nowadays is Donatello. So this is a spot where it's just you have to do something here. And luckily, we do have an untapped land, so the ability to cast this meltdown and fight through a metallic rebuke is doable. You won't be able to beat something like a force negation without another card in hand. But you have to sort of do what you have to do here.
Yeah, three cards in hand, you could be just staring down of not being able to resolve anything, but at least it is the resources to get a board wipe in, and also they have follow ups in hand as well. We can see a Ragavan there just at the end of the end of the hand. To try and go, yeah, they're only all on zero, so
Oh,
you
there's
see,
two meltdowns. I think we drew another one. So I actually,
okay.
oh, this play is so good then. Yeah, you play your DRC, you play the meltdown. Lorenzo's obviously going to just counter this. He has to, right? He has lethal on board. And so you counter it, and then you play the next meltdown for X's one. You cleaned everything up but the Urza Saga. And I mean, what else could you want? Great sort of draw there, and then play adapting to that.
And why this has become a great turn is not about having the cards right now. It's been the setup to get to this turn. We saw that literally from turn one, talking about they're just putting pressure on, pressure on. They're churning through the deck. They're getting the important cards. And yes, as we've got to that part of the time, they are staring down a scary board, but they've sequenced their draws out so well that they've been able to put themselves in position to do this. Yeah, obviously you always have to hold his hands up and say, if you got it, you got it. But they don't. You've cleared the board, and the tide now turns because it becomes very difficult for the affinity player to come back without the resources.
Yeah, and we saw how last turn not playing that meltdown when you could have, right? That is sort of the potential difference maker here. If, that last card in hand had been a second metallic rebuke instead of Spiral of Canal, and the turn prior you lost, your meltdown to that, you wouldn't have this pressure on board, and you would have had to play around the second one. So we should be delirious now. We were at 3 before we chump blocked with our DRC, which means we have a 3/3 flyer. If you're a big Affinity fan, this Urza Saga does represent a pretty huge problem for Murktide still. You're going to pump out some friends, probably grab a Shadow Spear, but Murktide fans rejoice. You do have a chance now in the game, which was looking unwinnable just minutes ago.
Yeah, and also having the ability to go steel cutter into a Murktide. Wow, the board state has completely flipped on its head.
It really has. I'm curious here too if Francisco wants to, delve away Delirium so we have another blocker, or just, let the DRC get in for 3. Both lines make a ton of sense to me. Really depends on the kind of hand you have. And as the opponent, I'm really paying attention to, did my opponent, wonder about this? And I like this here. Just attack in for a bunch. That construct's not going to be big enough to eat the Corey Steel Cutter. So if it wants to block, it's just saving a point of life.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not gonna be doing too much there. Do you still of this Urza Saga just now get forced to go and get something like a Shadow Spear to like gain some life back, or is that just are you just too far away here? Yeah, yeah, you are. Look, Lorenzo outstretches the hand, and that is a 2-0 to Francisco. That was just a really skillfully played Murktide game, and love to see the fact that actually turn one mattered to how well positioned they were in turn 7 and 8, like another great example of a well piloted deck.
Yeah, and that's the sort of mastery that you sort of need to play these, especially blue decks in these eternal formats, right? When you can see so much of your deck between preordained, scries, surveilling, all of these sort of cards, game planning and figuring out how am I going to win this game and what is that going to look like is so, so important. And you can do this at like an average level and you get average results. You do this at an amazing level, like we just saw here, you're going to get amazing results. Winning a game that looked almost unwinnable. And I love the way Lorenzo played this as well. Didn't pop the EE when he didn't really need to, right? Took his time, developed slowly, and then push on the gas as soon as we started to run low on resources and we couldn't sort of fight too much longer there. So great play from our affinity player, but unfortunately, a double meltdown plus skillfully playing towards those got him in the end.
And there would be just a question as we are in pre-release weekend is that Krang is a deck that, as a card that just got printed, it would have been interesting to see that find its way onto the battlefield there whilst the resource battle was low, and would have also been able to like pull out a bunch of cards. So it's great to see like we've got the decks in modern actually like holding firm, and you've got cards from Mirrodin block there, but also the fact that there's stuff in the brand new set being printed that would be completely compatible for it to be in there. One ofs, two ofs, and yeah, I'm sure when they come away from this tournament, you're going to end up seeing the skateboard printed added into this
Yeah.
deck as an almost certainty.
Yeah, imagine a skateboard in that last game, right? Your opponent attacks you, they start racing, they think I have a big Murktide holding back. I think we would have been a little short of lethal, but skateboard would have, if you had an untapped land, attached to the new construct, give it haste, tap down that Murktide, and attack for at least very, very close to lethal, if not lethal itself. So pretty big change up there, as maybe we almost got the instant replay on what would have happened here. But I think we are going to take a quick break here to set up our round number 6, and we'll be back with more modern action very soon.